For you today. All right, y'all ready for this? Y'all ain't ready for this. Why is my screen frozen there? That's weird. Okay, well, I'm frozen, but I'm alive. Listen, we got a great show for you tonight, and we're gonna kick it off here with one of our new members to the team, and that is none other than Francisco. What's
Hey,
up,
hey,
buddy?
hey. Another day in paradise. All good.
Okay, what is it? You're muted again.
Can anybody else hear me? I don't hear anybody. Does anybody hear me? Hello? Is there anybody out there?
Okay, Francisco, welcome to the show.
Hey, hey, can you hear me now?
I'm still not getting your audio. That's nuts.
Reggie said he could hear me.
What the heck? Oh, wait a minute. Let's see here. Maybe it's this HDMI cord I plugged in over here. And that's probably what it is. Okay, talk to me now.
Can you hear me?
No, I'm still
Still?
not getting you. I see your mouth
All right.
moving, but you're not coming through.
Reggie says he hears both of us. Anybody else want to chime in?
Okay, I got
Anyone
you
else
now.
do? Oh, you do.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
Ron hears
Francisco,
me.
I apologize for the technical difficulty there, and that's weird. I changed some things around in here, and that's what happened. My fault.
Well,
Okay, so what you got on your topic tonight?
tonight my topic is conspiracies.
Oh
And
boy.
to make it simple, right? Because it's easy to dismiss conspiracies. We sort of treat people who talk about conspiracies as if they're automatically crazy, but they're not necessarily. Yeah, are there crazy conspiracies? Absolutely. But here's what a conspiracy is. It's really a simple idea. If I ask you to be the getaway driver for a robbery, and you say yes, then we're now conspiring, right?
Yep,
And
definitely.
two or more people planning something nefarious is a conspiracy. It's pretty simple. Now, there have been lots of verified conspiracies throughout American history. I won't go into all of them because there's actually a fairly long list, but I'm going to just highlight a few of them and then maybe talk about one at length. So, for starters, the U.S. Department of the Treasury poisoned alcohol during Prohibition, starting in 1920, and at least 1,100 people died because basically they were discouraging people from drinking alcohol, and their big idea was to poison alcohol, and people actually wound up dying as a result. And this is something that we don't really hear about. In 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff approved Operation Northwoods. And again, this is all verified, all established fact. And what Operation Northwoods was, it was a plan to create support for a war in Cuba that would oust communist leader Fidel Castro. And what they were planning to do, although they never did this, but what they were planning to do was kill American citizens and blame it on Cuba so that Americans would be motivated to go into war with Cuba, or at least oust Fidel Castro. In 1973, under the code name MK Ultra, the American government ran a human research operation within the CIA's Scientific Research Division. Researchers tested the effects of hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, torture, and most memorably, LSD on American and Canadian citizens, and most of them had no idea that this was going on. Another one, the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which brought America into the Vietnam War. Most of it was fake, like most of it just literally just never happened. Again, proven. In 1985, the American government sold weapons to Iran, violating an embargo, and used the money to support Nicaraguan militants. And we saw the hearings that took place when Ronnie Reagan was confused and didn't remember anything, but Oliver North came through and told us what was really happening with that. In 1990, a public relations firm organized congressional testimony that propelled American involvement in the Persian Gulf War. Again, fake testimony from fake Middle Easterners that helped get us into that war. But the one that I want to spend an extra little bit of time on is what happened in 1932. This is when the Public Health Service collaborated with the Tuskegee Institute to record the history of syphilis in the Black male community. 399 Black men were told they would receive treatment. However, the researchers never provided adequate treatment for the disease. Now, originally, they were told that this experiment was going to last 6 months, but it went on for 40 years. So for 40 years, the American government sat back and just watched people get sick and die just because they wanted to do it. So when other conspiracies come up, or when people have questions about what the government is doing, I'd say don't automatically dismiss them. Yes, you're going to get crazy ones in there. You're going to get the QAnons of the world, but at times you're going to get some real stuff happening. And that's why a lot of people don't trust the government. That's why a lot of Black and brown people don't trust doctors. Of course, there's other reasons for that, but these are just some of the highlights of past conspiracies and why we shouldn't always just take the government's word for what they say they're doing.
Oh man, are you serious? We shouldn't believe everything the government. Come on, man. Are you kidding me?
But some people do, believe it or not. Some people still do. Some people say, "Hey, if they said it's true, then it must be true." I've heard people say that,
and that I think that's largely because people want to trust the government.
Of course.
Good report, man. Good stuff.
Thank you.
And let's see what the base man has here for us tonight. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and a hearty boom shakalaka to everybody out there. Crichton's men's basketball coach, Greg McDermott, has been reinstated for all team activities following a one-game suspension for racially insensitive comments he made for his players late in February. The decision allows McDermott to coach the Blue Jays in this week's Big East tournament. He goes on to say, during this time last week, McDermott, he used the word plantation twice as part of an analogy urging team unity following the loss to Xavier February 27th. He says, and I quote, "Guys, we need to stick together. We need to have both feet in. I need everybody to stay on the plantation. I can't have anybody leave the plantation." Now, during this time, there was investigating to show if he was using a pattern of racism. The investigators showed that he was not. Also goes on to say that Crichton felt that it was in the best interest and the interest of the players to reinstate him. And the players wanted him back on the team. They didn't see him as a racist. Crichton, who is a Jesuit university and a private university committed to social justice and equality. And that sounds good and it sounds great, but the damage has already been done. And the only reason why he's being reinstated, as far as I'm concerned, is because they have a shot at going for the championship there at the NCAA tournament. The thing about it is, being a Jesuit university and for social change and equity, and not equity, but economy, not economy, Jesus. Take three. Let's try equality. There you go. I know with one E. So you bring it into the factor. The fact remains is that I wonder what had happened if they were not poised to go to the playoffs, if they were not poised to go into March Madness. Would they have fired him? And I have that question to the rest of the panel. I'd like to address it, because if you were the athletic director and this came down the pike, you got to factor in, of course, where you are, who you are, the people involved, the players involved. Regardless of going to the playoffs, would you keep him fired? Would you just take him off the bat and just say, look, we have to make an example of you and not have you come back? But once again, them being a Jesuit, a faith-based university, once again private, they can make those decisions. So I leave it to the panel to have a decision about that. What do you think?
Well, let's go around the table. Dr. Ron, what do you think?
Well, unfortunately, in a situation like this, we know that collegiate sports is one of the things that colleges live for. The alumni, everybody that's involved, they have a say-so on what goes on. And by them having an opportunity to go to the Sweet 16 or whatever number they're up to now, they want to have an opportunity to be competitive. So they're going to put whatever the coach said to the side, and they're going to allow themselves to go forward and try to be competitive and compete. Now, forthcoming, to be determined down the road, they may address this again. They may revisit this, but right now, they don't think he can do no wrong right now, because they got to have him on deck doing what they paid for him to do to get him there in the first place.
Well, I can't disagree with you, Dr. Ron. Professor, what are your thoughts? You're in the school system and at a university, and you know how important the athletic program is and all that. So what's your thought on it?
I'd have to, what is the policy? I need to know the policy of the university. Whatever that policy is, they need to abide by it. But of course, it is the dollar, and they want to go further in that. They want to go further in the round of the playoffs, because the deeper they go, the more money that the university receives. So again, it's just a matter of, well, we'll deal with this now, but then maybe they might can him later. So I don't know. And I got to really look into that a little bit more. So I'm just going to say, but for right now, if the team wants him, they need to go with what the team says. Because if the team doesn't win, right, if they get despondent and be hurt and don't want to play, then that's like cutting the nose to spite the face. You want to be righteous, well, we can't do this because this and this, they got a zero tolerance and all that crazy stuff. Now, and then these boys on this team give up. Now, if the team was really not that good, then go ahead on and make the move. But if they're good, and the teammates say the players say they're not going to play, or they support this guy and they feel like, well, he wasn't being racist, he was just talking, then who are we to judge?
Yeah.
Get out the way.
So in other words, it's about the bottom line, basically.
About the money. Oh, definitely. Because if they go deeper into another round into the playoffs, that's more advertisement, that's more exposure to come to that program, that's more scholarships. That's it's all what the OJs say: money, 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 money.
Right. Okay. Well, let's go to Francisco. What's your read on it?
Well, I think I have two thoughts basically on this. One is that to me, it's hard to fully assess the situation with a soundbite or a quote. I'd love to see a greater context to it. But the other thing is if it appears to be, or if it is what it appears to be, then I would say it's that situation that if there's a price for your integrity, you probably don't have any.
Wow, that's plain and clear. I agree with you. I think that we have to look at a lot of things nowadays. I mean, look at what the governor in New York is going through. He's sticking to his guns. He says, I ain't touching nobody. I didn't do anything wrong, and I'm not going to resign. I'm going to wait until the investigation comes out, and I'm going to go with the truth. So he is either very confident, or he feels that there's some legal reasons why he might not be indicted and convicted. So, I think it's not a bad idea for the school to stick by the guy. Did he use a bad choice of words or word? Absolutely. What was he thinking about? And I think that the heads of the school need to have that kind of conversation with him and maybe with the entire staff and talk about some sensitivity training. And, so that this doesn't happen again, because it's a black eye to the university. No question about that.
I mean, but if the university has been operating like that, I mean, this is nothing that just, if this man has said that and how he said it, that means he's been living in that and been going through that for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think. So then that means the spotlight needs to be on you. You just can't hit him. The whole program, everything about that university needs to be revisited.
I agree. Yeah. And my question is this the first time he has used that word in any context other than from a historical standpoint?
Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
you and all of us here know that when you use a certain language or certain words and cadences, that's
Right.
you on the regular.
Yeah.
And to address to address ball players, your basketball players, the majority African American, to use the word plantation, it's like, dude, what were you smoking?
Yeah.
I mean, this is nothing new under the sun, but you have to be more forthright. Regardless, I go back to what Francisco was saying, regardless of a soundbite, this is pretty much cut and dry. The thing about it is the following. You did not use language like that. You did not use terminology like that, especially being, you should be more than sensitive. Again, I know they were Jesuit University. I read the article. So you're faith-based. So you should know better than even trying to think that direction. Unless, once again, you use it behind closed doors and now it's out in the open.
But you know what? You all know that basketball programs, football programs, they're kind of like a secret society, with a blank check to do what they got to do to make their program a success. I think back decades ago when, was it Bobby Knight was running around beating the hell out of people, and then he finally caught him on video. And then they like, oh, no, we can't tolerate this. And that was black, white, Chinese, Mexican. Everybody was getting the hell beat out of him if he was on the team.
Yeah.
So, but they allowed it until it was just a media situation that came up.
Well, that video convicted him.
Exactly. That's why I say it was a media.
You got to go with your lying eyes.
Yeah. I mean, a media situation arose.
Yeah, so this was happening, and people knew it was happening, and they were content to have it happen as long as he was a winning coach. But then, as soon as it's exposed, then again, this is a lack of integrity.
Yeah, it's a media situation now.
Yeah.
So now we got to deal with it. Oh, damn! They didn't care because he was a winning coach.
It's a classic situation. I'm gonna cut you off. It's a classic situation of, I'm sorry I got caught.
Right.
That's why you're sorry.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I don't think he ever apologized. He just, okay, y'all got me. I'm done. It's time to retire.
Fade to black and disappear.
I got a pension coming. I'm cool with that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Basically what happened,
Yeah.
So, but basketball, sports programs, period, are programs that rule on campuses, period.
A lot of money involved.
Alumni programs. They put a lot of money,
no question,
into these sports programs because they're not like the professional, quote unquote. And I remember, piggybacking off of that a little bit, they were trying to get it where college programs can get salaries. They wanted to be able to turn that into a situation where kids were not suffering anymore. They can take endorsements. They can make it a paid program. And
do you think that's a bad idea or a good idea?
I don't think it's a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, because if you think about it, playing some sports can be just as dangerous in college as it is as professionals.
Absolutely.
You get your neck broken, you're in a
break
wheelchair,
your neck, mess up your back, your leg.
Aside from getting hurt, the fact of the matter is that these colleges are making billions of dollars and paying the athletes nothing, which is very much like a plantation. So we've got to stop that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And that was a campaign that came out a few years back, and you haven't heard anything about it anymore. I think some states voted on it to see if they're gonna make it legal.
Yeah, I saw it pass somewhere. I don't know how many. I haven't followed this story closely, but Going back to Cuomo for a moment. All right, I've got a couple things to say. I'm gonna do a disclaimer first, which is this. I absolutely encourage everybody to believe women when they say that a man has done something wrong. But here's the problem. And again, I haven't read everything about this, but everything I've seen so far, I actually haven't heard a woman say that he did anything crazy.
Right.
Like he
Some
okay,
verbiage.
so
That's about it.
maybe he propositioned you, but he didn't. If when you said no, he didn't fire you. Nothing happened. Like, okay, he made you uncomfortable for a second, but now is that a reason for a man to resign? If he did, if it was a Harvey Weinstein situation, of
Yeah.
course, lock the dude up. But I haven't heard that yet. I haven't heard any woman say he touched me, he hovered over me. I haven't heard any of that. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
he did yet. And again, I haven't dug into it, but I watched the one interview with the woman, and she actually didn't say anything. He asked me to be his girlfriend.
Now, here's the bell that rung in my head when I saw that same interview. So you're a guy, you're in either corporate America or you're in government or whatever. You're single. Are you absolutely wrong if you approach a woman that you really have an interest in? I mean, is it that is absolutely the rule you cannot break if you are genuinely interested in a female that you happen to be working with? Or, I mean, you just say, hey, I really, really like what's going on here with this lady. She's she's appealing, and I'd like to, further investigate the possibility of dating her. So, I mean, there's a lot of people in the workplace that are
against it. I don't know what the law is or whether there's rules or whatever, but one of my favorite comedians who died in 2011 is Patrice O'Neill. And one of the things that he said is that if you really want to solve this problem, let's not have men and women work together, because the fact of the matter is somewhere between 30 and 40% of marriages come from the workplace. Okay. You put people in close proximity of, the opposite sex that are attracted to one another. What do you think is going to happen exactly? And we have to pretend that we don't. I've had a lot of corporate gigs, and the thing that I laughed about when I read the dress code is that I was only allowed to show my face and my hands, literally, according to the dress code. Right, I had to have a suit on. I had to have a tie on at all times, even when it was blazing hot out. And so that meant that the only thing you ever saw on me was my face and my hands. And yet women were dressed like they were going to the club. Now, frankly, that doesn't bother me. I love women's bodies. I want to see as much as you want to show me. But that is kind of ridiculous to have that standard. Okay, so and now, okay, you have a right to dress like that. That's fine. But if you catch me looking at you, what did you expect?
Yeah, that's a real problem. Professor, go ahead.
Listen, when things come up on public officials like that, I mean, the first thing I'm saying to myself is, who did he piss off?
Yes.
So somebody's mad at him because you can go to the attack with former President Clinton. And you could go down the line. You could look at Bill Cosby. You could look at all of these attacks that have been. What did this guy do? Who did he piss off to whereas they are finding these women and telling them to come on up? You say something about this, because that's the easiest thing. Right. Well, that's the easiest thing to get a stain on. So it needs to be a thorough investigation as to where this came from, because all of a sudden,
right.
Well, now we're in a conspiracy, though, right? If that's the case, so
that's the elephant in the room.
Yeah, and it's not impossible. I'm not saying that that's not possible at all. But let's go to the path of least resistance and just assess what we have been presented so far. And not one woman has said he attacked me, he touched me, he asked me for sex. He
Yep,
nothing.
exactly.
Like
Put his
Bill
hand down
Cosby's
my
allegations
blouse.
were off the chain crazy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This is a guy wanted me to go out with him. I haven't heard anything different than that yet. And again, I'm not pretending that I know this case front and back, but so far I haven't heard what this guy did that warrants him having to quit his job.
It's the attack. It's they listen when they want to get.
So you're saying it's politics?
Yes, absolutely. When they want to get you, they when they want to get you, they throw stuff in the game, and it comes from everywhere. Yeah. It comes from everywhere, from anyone. What did he do? Who did he piss off? That's what I want to know.
And that's the evidence. That's the elephant in the room. Why now?
Right.
You know, this man just came through a management situation with dealing with his state being the hot spot for one of the most dangerous, diseases in the world. Yeah. And he handled this eloquently. Okay, he did his damn job.
He kept kicking Trump in the butt, though. He complained about everything Trump was doing, and I think that it's a possibility that there's some Trumpsters that are behind this. I mean, and they're complaining about they're trying to accuse him of killing off a bunch of old people in the nursing homes and what have you. That man didn't do that intentionally. No, I mean, if you're going to do that, then you're going to have to blame every governor in the United States, every mayor, and every medical professional. So that, in my opinion, that dog won't hunt. It shouldn't hunt because I don't think he intentionally did anything to harm anybody, old, young, middle-aged, black, white, blue, or green. This was a pandemic out of control, and New York State was number one. The first hot spot.
Yes, sir.
So it was the test pilot for everything that followed. So,
but again, we're living in a world of extremism. Nothing wrong with rules and regulations. Going back to what my brother was talking about relationships you see in the workplace. You meet someone, you'll date, most likely get married or whatever situation may be, because your time spent outside of your home, leisure time, professional time, personal time. That's going to happen. And now with the whole thing about conspiracy thing, that could happen too. You piss off the wrong people. They put us out there in the court of public opinion. That's what's happening here when it comes to the governor. So you're looking at a situation where it's not even okay to ask someone, "I'm generally like you. I'm going to know you better. Can you be my girlfriend, or can we work on going on a date?" You can't do that, brothers. We're blaming a cartoon character for rape culture.
Yeah.
We're blaming Pepe Le Pew. We're blaming Skunk the Pew.
Yes.
For rape culture.
All right.
Yes.
How's your funk intelligy?
Look, no offense. Once again, if you glean into a situation that you see a cartoon like Pepe Le Pew, all I knew was that watching him, he just stank to be damned. That was it. He stank. He tried to get this, female cat. That's all I saw. I did not get anything rapey out of it.
As a child, that's all we saw. Yeah.
Exactly. But again, people are going to the extreme. And I think it's really, on a side note, that's hit on Warner Brothers. They went after, and what I thought was funny, when you read the article of Le Pew, they act as though he's a real human being or a real being. Le Pew, comma, and then they go on with the article. Like he's actually something real. They went after him, Speedy Gonzalez. They even blamed Elmer Fudd for gun control. For gun culture. Now let's back up for a second. I really don't believe if somebody's going to tote a gun and they're going to say, "Hey man, the reason why I'm here, Elmer Fudd's my boy." I don't believe that. But again, people buy into that because the extreme is what it is. And, if you give somebody a story, the guy gives good cops and bad cops, angels and demons, and people love a good story. This is a good story. It's goddamn ridiculous.
For sure.
Two things.
Right.
Two things.
Go ahead.
Before we go, two things. They put a thing that LeBron had said that he didn't want him in there. They tried to, so I left that alone after that. Because like I told you, Chris, I'm done when they started blaming Le Pew. But then we cannot forget when this when these stories come up that the media is the most powerful entity on earth. That's what Malcolm X said. It has the ability to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. And we just witnessed that with the last president, and we're witnessing it now with this governor. So we have to be vigilant about and continue to do research as to what we see and hear in this media. It just blows my mind that we just take everything at face value from what these people say from these media entities. So whoever broke the story, who owns you? That's the first question. Who owns you? And what is their position? You need to know that. If you know anything that's on a negative about a Democrat, you know it's coming from Rupert Murdoch now. And he's always been a staunch Republican. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Who owns CNN? Who owns these outlets? We have to do the research on that, because this is why they are saying what they're saying, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. The media has the power to make the innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. We can never forget that.
Well, I'd like to offer a different perspective on the Pepe Le Pew thing, right? There's an organization whose initials are RAINN, RAIN. It's one of the largest organizations in defense of women. They help women with sexual assault, actually anybody, but they focus on women. And they don't like the phrase rape culture because they feel that it's inaccurate, especially when you look at the percentages of men that are doing that. But instead of kind of just dismissing stuff like this, we have to sometimes put ourselves in the shoes of the other person. So if you think about what women have to go through on a regular basis, don't leave your drink unattended, don't walk alone anywhere, and the long list of warnings that they have to go through just to navigate being around men. And also keep in mind that the number one killer of women is men. So I know it sounds silly with Pepe Le Pew and stuff, but it's part of a bigger picture. And I think we need to be sensitive to that.
Well, there's a lot to be sensitive about nowadays because of the culture, the environment that we're in, and the way things have changed, the sensitivity level that we all have to have, males and females. But when I was in the broadcast business, running radio stations all over the country and what have you, there were women that I worked with that I used to, sometimes wish they would hit on me, because but you couldn't, it's just like, but cops work together, husband and wives. I don't think they let them be in the same car, but they work in the same precinct, doctors and nurses. So there's, but if you're in a position of power, then it becomes a big no-no.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the real problem. And, and people have to sometimes stifle their emotions and their feelings towards each other because they work in the same environment, and what do? You catch them outside of the environment where you work and then express your feelings towards that person. Is that
but it's
even
still
wrong?
A problem with the power dynamic? And
exactly.
I think ultimately what most societies require of people is rather unreasonable, because and we've touched on it. Don't be who you are. Don't be what you are. Before he is a business owner or a captain of industry or a political leader, he is a man. And before she's an employee, she's a woman, and if you have two heterosexual people, one man and one woman, things are going to happen. And unfortunately, society keeps pretending that these things shouldn't happen. And we have to address that at a more fundamental level. And the power dynamic I get, but again, in the case of Mario Cuomo, I haven't heard anything so far that relates to any abuse of power. And I get it. I get what his position is, and I get the perception of that. But I haven't heard any of the women say, when I said no, there were negative consequences.
Right.
I get
I
the
didn't get that
discomfort and all that
promotion.
stuff. Yeah,
Right.
I and she and the one who was interviewed was actually promoted after the fact. So it seems like he didn't
Can't
abuse
use that.
his power. So again, I don't have all the facts, but we just in general, I think the sensitivity has to go to women and give them the benefit of the doubt. But if the idea is that now you're saying this man has to lose his job, now the burden of proof is on you, and I don't see any yet.
Well, let me just throw this out here, and then I'll go to you, Chris. Then after that, we'll go to Dr. Ron, because I know he's itching. But are the rules the same if there were two women involved or two men involved? I'm just saying.
Well,
With
the
that,
power
go ahead,
dynamic would
Chris.
probably still be there,
Yeah.
but go ahead, Chris.
Let me say the following. It's not to be insensitive. It's not. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is that this is ridiculous. And I mean it sincerely. I mean from the standpoint, now, once again, I have done shows talking to women who have been through this, and I understand where you can try to align something to make your point. I'm just saying, in this situation, with all due respect, it's a hell of a stretch. It really is. And once again, I'm not denouncing the fact that what women go through in their lives is not to be taken seriously. I agree wholeheartedly. But when you're talking about this, combined with what I talked about before about gun culture to a cartoon character, things like that, it's not warranted. It really isn't. And once again, I'm the most fair-minded person people will tell you. I am. But when it comes to a situation like this, it seems like you're grasping for more. Going back to the op-ed piece that started all this about the whole Pepe Le Pew situation. And you're right. It is a broader perspective. It is a broader conversation we all should have. But for the record, you can still take the cartoon character out of it and still deal with it seriously.
Amen, brother. All right, let's go to Dr. Ron. Dr. Ron, what's on your plate tonight?
Well, I just got to make one last statement about what we just talked about with the, women being abused verbally. I'm from the 70s, as well as, a couple of people that's on the panel here. And my biggest statement is, how did we get here? We went from one night stands, free sex, love, good drugs, all the way to don't look at me, I'm going to report you to the EEOC. Seriously? Come on now. That's a long way to come from,
Well, I think, Dr. Ron, those 60s and 70s kind of screwed things up.
Man,
I guess we were kind of buck wild.
Were they screwed up? Come on now.
Apparently.
Well, look, when we was walking around right after the Garden of Eden, all we had on was fig leaves. Okay.
You sure
and
about
it
that?
wasn't no big deal. Okay. You saw a pair of tits and ass, and it was like, "Hi, Eve, how you doing today?" And now you go all the way up to,
You might want to read Genesis again, Ron.
I'm
You
just
might
saying.
want to brush up on Genesis again. That's not the message that came out of that story.
But I'm just using it as a figuratively speaking.
Oh, God.
Okay. We went from the 60s and 70s all the way to 2021, where everything is bad, bad, bad. Okay. Period.
Right.
Period. Okay. Now moving right along.
Yeah, we're going to change the subject here now before we get end up in Facebook jail.
We're going to get some hate mail in a minute. I get it.
Before you go,
yes,
I
sir.
put the link in where if you that are watching and listening to us tonight, there's a link there just posted. You can check it out. You can click on that link and it'll bring you right into the studio here. And you don't necessarily have to be on camera, by the way, as long as you got a microphone, or you can do it on your phone or your laptop, your computer, your iPad or whatever. And that link will bring you into our, what we call the green room. Then I can bring you into the conversation. So don't be afraid. Let's talk about it. We're talking about some good, juicy stuff here tonight.
Yes.
Anyway, just click on that link that I've posted and come on in. Go ahead, Dr.
Yeah,
Ron.
you know, I got to be controversial. You know, I got to say something that's
Yeah,
on the edge.
yeah.
You know,
Shit,
hey man,
sir.
I'm the wild guy in the group. Everybody else is all, you know, they got respectable shows. I don't.
I'm sorry, Ron. You can't take my moniker.
I know that's right. Look, I got a public service announcement that I want to put out here for today. In light of President Biden, you know, signing off on the relief package on today, they're talking about over the weekend will be the possibility of the first deposits showing up in people's accounts.
Help is on the way.
Yeah. So according to Bloomberg, they made it known that there's some information that people need to be aware of. The last $600 check or payment that went out came out in two different methods. If you did not receive it or three different methods. If you did not receive it in your bank account, then they sent out paper checks or they sent out debit cards. Now, those debit cards were loaded with your $600, and some people did not know that the government would be sending them a debit card, and they destroyed the cards. So, you know, just as a public service announcement, I wanted to make sure that we make our listeners aware that, you know, there's going to be three different methods of payment. And then you have to look at, you know, what your family size is and, you know, to determine what that amount of that check is going to be. And, you know, then you'll be able to, you know, spend it accordingly. But most people will receive it in a direct deposit. Some people will receive a paper check, and then some people will receive a debit card. So you need to be on the lookout for that debit card and know that that is what your relief help is going to be on. So I just want to make sure that our listeners are informed of what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. So between now,
one side note here, doctor, and if you don't want that card, contact me. I'll take it off your hands.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
Don't send it back.
I accept donations as well.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, anybody on this show will accept a donation. That's not a problem. I mean,
donate it to Street News Now.
Exactly. Exactly. Anybody on this show will accept it, and we will put your money to good use. But
That's
just
right.
as a public service announcement, we want you guys to be informed. You come here to hear things that you don't hear anyplace else. And we don't know if you've heard this or not, but we want to keep you informed and up to date on what to look for, you know. And when you get your check, you know, try not to go out and buy, you know, a big screen TV. You know, try not to go and adopt all your grandkids so that you can make your check bigger. You know, do the right thing.
Can I get a new video card?
Or
new microphone?
Well, see, first of all, Lee, you're not a U.S. citizen, so you ain't gonna get no check, you know.
Oh, damn. You busted me out.
You gotta be a U.S. citizen, okay? And you have to have filed taxes at least in the last 2 years, 19 to 20. Now, you've been crying about your limousine service and all that stuff that's been broke. We know you've been getting unemployment. You ain't made no money, so how you gonna file a tax return?
You have to pay taxes on unemployment too. And
yeah,
the EIDL and the PPP and the OPP.
Yeah, everything else, you know. But yeah, we just want people to know that relief is on the way, and it can come in many different forms and sizes. Okay, so that was my public service announcement. Now I did have something else that I wanted to throw out there.
Well, you better get stepping.
I'm stepping. I'm coming. Okay. Now I did see on TYT that Bitch McConnell is supposed to be retiring before his term is up. Now,
I believe that when I see it.
And everybody else, you know, but this fool has made a bill, and he's introduced it, Senate Bill 228 to the Kentucky legislature, that he wants to change how his replacement is going to be chosen. He wants to pick his own replacement. Normally, right now, anybody that is no longer in that seat, the governor of that state will assign who the replacement in the Senate will be. But this guy, he got a top 3 list and everything on who he wants to replace him in this, if this bill passes. Now, if the legislature goes along with his fool self and allow him to get this through, then he'll get to pick from his top 3 list, which is basically people that has favor with him. But I'm gonna throw this out to the panel. What do y'all think about him retiring?
Bye, Shanika.
Nobody got a comment about Bitch McConnell? Come on now.
Just put please behind that when you said, when you call him by his first name, just say, Mitch, please.
That's a good one.
Mitch,
Yeah, that is a good one. No, I was sitting here thinking before I speak. The thing about Bitch McConnell is that you can't trust him, and I agree with everybody else on the panel. I believe when I see it. If I do see it, I got a question mark behind it because the man got ulterior motives. The man has been an obstruction of justice since he got the position there in the government. So he ain't going to change. Like I said before, he'll get some cronies in there to follow the same playbook, the same mentality, and do the exact same thing. Why? Because he's established that. We want to, sometimes when we think about our own legacies, we try to go on in people. So he probably dominoes to cross somebody up and say, now I want you to follow what I did. And then do the exact same thing that he did because of that type of mentality. So I don't believe it.
Do you think it has anything if this word is true, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that his wife was the Secretary of Transportation and evidently she's in a little bit of hot water for some potential or alleged misdoings?
Oh, yes.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You think?
I think everything ties in to some degree, especially with his wife, and for her to, once again, obstruction of justice, abusing power. Look, it's like, do as I say, don't do as I do. In this situation, do as I do. So they're both in the same situation. So, hey, if you got to go, I got to go. Baby, I got your back, front, and sideways.
Right. Okay, Dr. Ron, you have anything else?
Well, look, y'all want to hear the top 3 choices that he made?
Go ahead.
I got them for
absolutely.
You. Okay. On the short list, Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Okay.
Family member.
Yeah, right. Which was the guy, the black guy who refused to bring charges against, the cops that killed that girl innocently. Okay. Just one.
Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, exactly. And, is under grand jury indictment for lying to the grand jury. Okay. I just want to throw that in there because that's what they brought. United Nations Ambassador Kelly Craft, whose billionaire coal magnate husband is a major McConnell donor, as well as Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams, a former McConnell scholar. So all 3 are in his hip pocket. All 3.
Interesting.
So that's his short list.
Birds of a feather.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He plans on having a replacement that he can still push buttons and try and control what's going on in DC, even though he may retire. So I think it's a disgrace, actually. I mean, just crawl in your hole and go away, and shut the hell up and leave the rest of the world. He's been effing up for the last 10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And I applaud the fact that he's ready to retire. I'm glad to hear the idea. Maybe it'll sink in and it'll actually happen. But you ain't going to pick somebody to sit in that spot once you're gone. The governor's job. Okay. Now you're going to tell the whole state of Kentucky how to do their business? Really? That's some arrogant bullshit, ain't it? Excuse me. I'm starting to sound like Reggie.
You don't hear me cuss on the air.
Oh,
And don't be telling my business, man, while we on the air, man. What's wrong with you? That's a violation, player.
Put you on Front Street
Yeah,
like that.
You know you don't do stuff like that.
I was just letting everybody know how much of an influence you had on me.
Yeah, well, all right, man. See, you done got me. You almost had to start talking about Planet of the Apes, man.
On that note, Dr. Reggie Miles, it's your turn. Your turn to burn.
Listen, it's several things that's like really been bothering me. But one of the things that's topical on my mind is, this Voting Rights Act, man. What is actually going to be done to secure voting, the enfranchisement of us voting. We got a lot of work to do because they're trying to cut it out so that they what they feel that they're going to have a better chance to win. I mean, I'm seeing this one cat even said this, well, we can't win unless we stack the deck. But how are we moving forward to recruit and register new voters? We got to keep doing the same playbook now that Georgia's done, as far as getting more voters on the roll. Some of the pandemic situations, okay. If we're not in the pandemic situation, we got to modify them rules to still make it. We got to find ways to make it easier for people to vote. Not in these cases, they trying to. How many bills they done put up? 253.
Yeah, just about every state that is a red state, they're trying to modify the ways in which people can go to the polls or not. Or early voting is really the one that they really don't want, and voting by mail. If they can stop that, they think that then they can level the playing field. And I don't think that's really the problem. The problem with the Republican Party is it's not growing. Okay? And it's because of their policies and what they're doing and not doing. So why would anybody want to really sign up to be a Republican? And they're losing members or followers right now. People are leaving the Republican Party in droves. So their problem is their faces. The face that they're putting out to America is not looking good. Nobody wants to be associated with a bunch of lying, thieving, no good obstructionists.
The Ronald Reagan playbook.
Yeah, it is. It's horrible.
And it's time for a change. It's time for change to move forward. Now, when we push this change, what exactly are we asking for? In this change, how are we going to be any different or any better than what they have been?
Well, that's the fear. Mm-hmm. Okay. They don't want the change, number one. Mm-hmm. They're scared to death of change because they're afraid of losing power. And that position of power is all they have. And the problem is it's going to happen whether they like it or not.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the 500,000 people have died off, who knows how many of those were Democrats or Republicans, a lot of elderly people. And typically speaking, elderly people with any sense of reality are not voting for Republicans anymore. And the young folks are not that interested in the Republican Party because they're not doing the things. They're not talking about trying to help kids go to school at low cost or no cost. Those are the Democrats. So why would a young person who wants to go to a university, a college of their choice, and can't afford it, and their parents can't afford it, and maybe their credit is bad and they can't get a student loan in their names or their parents. So they're shit out of luck. And that's a shame. In America, nobody should not have a fair opportunity to go to a university and get a higher education and come out and try to make something of themselves and have a family and go on and have a fruitful life. That's
not
a problem.
Be in lifelong debt.
Yeah, yeah. I got friends and their sons and daughters are in $200,000 to $300,000 worth of debt from college loans. I mean, that's a mortgage, man. You're coming out of school, you still don't have a job. You end up driving Uber and Lyft, and you got a degree and can't find a job in which you have a degree. That's nuts. That's just insane. I can't process that. So it's really unfair to strap these kids and the parents of these kids in debt like that. Yeah. You know, get a second mortgage if you can.
And one of the other things that really bothered, well, it didn't bother me. I mean, where are our expectations? Okay, the Coming to America 2. I don't understand how people are going to think that a movie made 30 years ago and the new sequel is going to be, you know, what's the problem? Why would you even expect the part 2 to be better than part 1? As far as the way Eddie made this movie. Of course, the Coming to America 2, I hold that in high regards in the way that I loved Harlem Nights because of the people he brought together all on one screen. And it was like the same thing that he did with Coming to America 2. It was a lot of people that was in there, and it was beautiful to see them all working together. And then to come to find out that the way they shot it, the first one looked like it was a phony place, but the way they shot the second one, it was in Rick Ross's house, the rapper Rick Ross's house. So, and there are many people saying that they didn't like it because it didn't meet the expectations of the first one. Now, I just thought that was just really crazy. Why would you want to measure something that was made 30 years ago when you yourself were in a different time? Of course it's not.
Or may not even been alive.
Yeah, right.
30 years?
I think that's nitpicking. They just nitpicking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's a critic, you know, especially Americans. We are the worst critics of all time, whether it's movie, television, you know, or music. You can take the Shy-Lights, if all of them were still alive, and put them on a plane and send them to Europe, and they could get $60,000 a night. But here in America, it would probably be hard for them to get $10,000 because we judge our talent on what are you doing right now, not what you did 20, 30 years ago. You're only as hot as your last hit. If your last hit was 30 years ago, you shit out of luck. But people in Europe, they appreciate your art, your talent. They see that differently.
Everybody except Frankie Beverly and Mays.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, what a great group.
Europe doesn't celebrate Frankie Beverly, Dr. Ron.
No. I mean, he ain't had a hit, but they still love him. That's what
they do. They do. And they're an exception to the rule as it relates to being able to draw a crowd. I don't know what they've done lately, but I know, you know, just a few years ago, they could still pack a house.
Man, Frankie can call an all-white tour, and then people going to come out in all white. They going to even have
like you say, that's an exception to the rule. I say everybody except Frankie Beverly.
Even Earth, Wind, and Fire can't do it like they used to.
Not at all. But Frankie, if you say Frankie gonna be there, man, please, them people gonna show up and they gonna dance off of every one of them songs from 30, 40 years ago. Yep.
Well, our time has run out. Has everybody gotten things off their chest?
Yes, I'm good.
Yes, sir.
I do want to just add one little thing to what Reggie was saying.
Go ahead.
No, because this is good. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is going to guarantee the presidency to the candidate who receives the most popular votes across all 50 states. And so far, there's 16 states that have ratified this, which represent 196 electoral votes. Because we can't, it's going to be impossible to get rid of the Electoral College, but we can actually circumvent it with this new law.
That makes sense. I mean, that's the way it was supposed to be anyway. I think that was the intent, you know, but politicians will figure out how to manipulate every little thing to go in their favor. And I think that kind of crookery needs to stop. And I'll say to all politicians, whether you're on the federal level, state level, or local level, stop shucking and jiving and looking out for your own best interests, and think about the people that put you in that office. I don't care if you're a damn dog catcher. If you were voted to be in that position, then do a damn good job. Take care of those dogs. Whatever the position is, do the job that you were hired to do.
Them cats line their pockets up with paybacks here, paybacks there, payback.
Mm-hmm.
And then have the nerve to want to have a fit because the government wants to give us $1,400, and you making all of this money, and you doing all these other illegit things, but the people that really need help, you arguing about helping your own people.
Yeah.
The people that put you in there, you arguing about it, talking about this is going to add something to the deficit. You adding to the deficit, stealing.
If you're a Republican and you've been suffering because of you've lost family members or your whole damn family in some cases, and you're still sticking by the Republicans, and they didn't do anything, very little, I'll say. They approved 2 minor stimulus packages. Not enough, nor did they make it a priority. And this last stimulus, which I think if things don't get any better real quick, fast, and in a rush, there may be another stimulus needed. Now, whether or not it will happen or not, who knows? But the bottom line here is people all over America, young and old, are going through tough times. And if you voted for one of these clowns, you should rethink about whether or not you want to reelect them, because they did nothing but stonewall, filibuster, and BS around on what's important to you and your family. What's going to make your life a little bit easier? When the landlord is sitting there with his hand out waiting for you to pay up that rent or the mortgage company or your car payment, every little thing, or going to the grocery store to buy some groceries so that you can survive and see this thing till the end, as opposed to being a casualty of this god-awful virus that we're still dealing with. Don't play it short, folks. Wear your damn mask. Use your hand sanitizers. Wash your butt and be cool. Stop being a fool. Use common sense. Till next week, thank you for listening to the Five Guys and You. Next time, join us. Don't forget to like, share, and pass it around. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
SNN Street News Now.